This is the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. On this week's show, the life and times and best hits of jazz composer George Gershwin. And on this hour, we're going to be talking about his biography. So George Gershwin was born on September 26, 1898. He started out learning to play the piano as a kid. In 1914, he began to work as a Tin Pan Alley performer. It was the song Swanee that really rocketed him to fame. He wrote it in 1919 and it was popularized 1 year later by singer Al Johnson. In 1924, he had a turning point when he teamed up with his brothers as songwriters. They would write for Broadway, film, theater, and music scores. They soon became synonymous with Broadway screenplay. Their collaboration proved a massive success. Some of the hit shows the Gershwin brothers produced included Lady Be Good in 1924, OK in 1926, Funny Face 1927, Girl Craze in 1930, and Off the I Sing in 1931 and more. The last one was awarded a Pulitzer Prize. Also, many of his songs have been used in films and have become jazz classics ever since, like Crazy for You 1992, which ran for 4 years on Broadway. Ever since he was starting out, Gershwin wanted to become a music composer. His big break came when he was asked to write a musical composition for a concert that was to take place in Liberty Hall, New York City. His iconic composition was Rhapsody in Blue, a timeless jazz classic that was one of the most famous operatic pieces in history. He started working for the New York Symphony Society after that. One of his highlights from that era is his composition Concerto in F. Other hits include An American in Paris, released in 1928, and his second Rhapsody for piano and orchestra. In 1934, Gershwin was researching his composition material when he came across the perfect screenplay to help him write a folk opera with jazz and blues themes, inspired by a novel called Porgy, a Dubose Hayward novel. The result of that idea was the opera Porgy and Bess, an opera that blends timeless jazz classics like Summertime with dramatic background acts. Porgy and Bess prevailed in 1930. The opera has seen notable performances ever since and has also been performed internationally. It's also been performed numerous times on films and TV. George Gershwin died in 1937, leaving behind a legacy as one of the greatest composers in history. His work continued to see widespread success. Many of his songs are classics today. He was awarded a posthumous Pulitzer Prize in 1998. So that was a bit about the biography of George Gershwin, one of the greatest composers in jazz, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. We're going for a short break, be right back after that. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. On this week's show, it's all about jazz composer George Gershwin, and now for some promo news about an album release. The jazz band Three-Way are out with a new album. It's called Harken, and a single from that album is up for grabs. This is their 20th anniversary album. Also, they have guest star John Eldridge joining them on this album. On this album, Steve Waterman is on trumpet and flugelhorn, Steve Lauder on keyboards, and Ben Crosland on electric bass. Guitarist John Etheridge is making a special guest appearance. So they are celebrating their 20th anniversary with a mashup of original compositions and covers of jazz classics. Also, there's an interesting anecdote behind the name of the album. It begins at the school guitarist Ben Crosland studied at. Apparently his former school is celebrating their 100th anniversary next year, so they came up with the idea of celebrating the values at his school, which come to an acronym of the word HARK. The letters H for humility, A for ambition, R for resilience, and K for kindness. So the album Harken is set to be released Friday, July 5th. So that was some promo news about an album release that's just around the corner, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. We'll be right back after some music. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of George Gershwin's best compositions of all time, from jazz classics to operas to orchestral pieces. Stay tuned, and welcome to the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. On this week's episode, it's about the life and times and best hits of jazz composer George Gershwin. On this hour, it's about his best compositions of all time. From orchestral pieces to jazz classics, here's a quick recap of some of the compositions we're going to be talking about. Porgy and Bess was one of Gershwin's most famous jazz operas. Also, this opera gave way to some jazz classics that have become timeless since then, songs like Summertime. This song is the most covered song in the world with more than 25,000 renditions to date. I Got Rhythm is a piano and orchestral composition by Gershwin. The highlight of this song is the chord changes and the rhythm changes in the music. These form the foundation for many other bebop songs of that era. So this song is all about celebrating life, figuratively and literally. It's one of Gershwin's most popular songs and an all-time favorite jazz classic. Swanee is a famous composition by Gershwin that went on to become a jazz classic. This one's one of Gershwin's earliest compositions, written in 1919 at the age of 20. It was his first big hit and put him on the charts for the very first time. And that was a quick recap of what's coming up on this hour. This is the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. Stay tuned. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. You can check out my YouTube channel for archives of today's show on the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. So today on the Jazz Update, it's about composer George Gershwin. On this hour, we're going to be talking about some of his best compositions of all time, from operatic to orchestral compositions to songs that have become classics today. Porgy and Bess was one of Gershwin's most famous jazz operas. This opera is set in 1920s in South Carolina. It's one of the most witty, thought-provoking stories in the history of jazz, one of the most enduring folk operas in jazz history. Highlights of the opera include big orchestral backgrounds, elements of jazz, blues and gospel inspirations, and big chorus numbers. Also, this opera gave way to some jazz classics that have been timeless since then. Songs like Summertime, A Woman is a Sometime Thing, I Got Plenty of Nothing, and I Loves You, Porgy. The first song, Summertime, stands out in this opera. This song is incidentally the most covered song in the world, more than 25,000 renditions to its credit. It was written in 1934, was the opening track in the opera Porgy and Bess. It's inspired by jazz music. So it's basically a lullaby that Clara, a fisherwoman in the opera, sings to a child. It's been covered by artists of every genre ever since, from disco to reggae. It was first performed in the opera by singer Abby Michelle. Down the timeline of jazz, there's been notable renditions of this song by Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and more. So basically, this song is one that a mother is singing to her child to console him through the bad times. The lyrics set the tone for the song right off the bat with "Summertime, child, the living's easy." So the lyrics basically talk about how summertime is the best time of the year, how easy life is, and so forth. The next verse talks about how good looking the baby's mother is. She's the best looking mom in the world. And then we realize the child is going through bad times. And the next verse seeks to console the child, saying, "You're gonna spread your wings." So this song is one where the mother is singing to the child that there is hope. And it would apply to anybody in a hopeless situation. The message of hope in a better tomorrow is a powerful theme in this song. I Got Rhythm is a piano and orchestral composition by Gershwin. This one was originally performed by actress Ethel Merman in 1928. The music was based on the music of French composer Claude Debussy. The highlight of this song is the chord changes and the rhythm changes in the music. These formed the foundation for many other bebop songs of that era. So this song is about celebrating life, figuratively and literally. The singer talks about the things that make his life so amazing, from the small things in life, the natural beauty of the world around him, to his rhythm and his music. He also talks about his girlfriend, who he describes as a wicked girl who is the love of his life. The singer is singing about fulfillment and happiness. He's Got Rhythm. It's one of Gershwin's most popular songs and an all-time favorite jazz classic. Swanee is a famous composition by Gershwin that went on to become a jazz classic. This one's one of Gershwin's earliest compositions, written in 1919 at the age of 20. It was his first big hit and put him on the charts for the first time. In 1919, singer Al Johnson popularized this song during his stage performance in Sinbad the Theatrical. And in 1920, he recorded it for the first time on Columbia Records. It was an instant success. The song spent 18 weeks at the number one position on the charts. It went on to sell millions of copies worldwide as both an audio track and in sheet music format. So, Swanee is basically a song of longing. The singer is singing about how he misses the north, the birds, the banjos, his family and his friends. So that was a bunch of some of George Gershwin's best compositions of all time. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. You can check out my YouTube channel for archives of today's show on the Weekend Jazz Update with Gershwin Silva. Now for some trending album news. Tenor saxophonist and clarinetist David Murray is out with a new album. It's called Francisca. Features drum, bass and piano melodies. David Murray is exceptional on this album. His saxophone playing is smooth and elastic. He's accompanied on this album by pianist Marta Sanchez, bassist Luke Stewart and drummer Russell Carter. Many of the songs were originally composed by Murray. There's also one cover of a classic, Richard's Tune. So this album was named after Murray's wife and was recorded during a tour of Europe in Switzerland. David says he wrote the songs in this album to express how he feels about his wife. Over the changing times, he's understood her more deeply and he's channeling those feelings and emotions into this album. Each song brings out a different perspective of her in his view. The songs are also inspired by other jazz greats like Albert Murray, Ishmael Reed and Stanley Crouch. There's Marta Sanchez, whose dexterity on the keyboard is a highlight on this album. Luke Stewart, very solid on bass, and Russell Carter on drums. He draws his inspiration for the drum melodies in this album from Max Roach melodies. So you can purchase this album on bandcamp.com for $12. For more information, please visit intertrek.bandcamp.com/album/Francesca. And that was some trending album news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Geshwin Silva. They're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of George Gershwin's best compositions of all time. Stay tuned.